Good morning, YouTube family. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you might be. Welcome to Happy Crappy Hour. Oh my goodness, what a topic we have for you. What a topic we have today, right? It's just crazy. This got me thinking this week about systemic racism. I'm sorry, systemic racism is why I started thinking about systemic narcissism. And got me wondering, is there a system or an institution in place that teaches narcissism? And it's very possible that it does. But I'm just saying that whatever is systemic, we got to be careful of how uh, we define it, I guess. I don't know. But let's just define it loosely, okay, you guys? Let's not get offended about anything right here. What we want to learn about is there an institution or a social system in place that kind of grows narcissists? And that got me wondering you know, um, why are we seeing so many narcissists nowadays? Why does it seem like people are more bent towards narcissism? And, a big thing, of course, is social media. A lot of people point to that because it's a lot of, me, and self, focus and all these selfies. And I know generations before, with older generations, would say, "Oh my gosh, look at these younger people always taking pictures of themselves." And then the older generation started taking pictures of themselves as well. So it's kind of addictive, I suppose, right? This focus on self. Anyway, I want to explore today why there may actually be a system in place that that coddles and feeds narcissism. And what does that look like? And when we see it, I mean, it's so stealthy that we don't notice it as it's happening. And in fact, we kind of think what we're seeing and what we're experiencing is a good thing in the system. But what it actually does is it deteriorates your inner self. It really does. It deteriorates the goodness that you had been working on and gets you focused on being more selfish. Anyway, before we hop into that, I wanted to share with you guys. Let me see, what was I going to share with you this morning? Well, let's share some happies and crappies to start with. So, if you are new, our happies are what good things happened this week that we want to continue happening and we want to continue doing, and what bad things have happened this week that we want to learn from. So, let's get started with that. This week, well, let's start with some crappies, I guess. Um, and if you don't have crappies, that's great. Then things are going well, right? So this week, crappies. Well, let's say what I learned about myself. It was a crappy, but then it turned out good. The crappy was that I discovered that I'm very passionate. Well, I mean, I knew I've always been pretty passionate about things, right? I'm just a very emotionally expressive, happy, joyful, but also on the other side, very intense, very passionate about what I believe. Or anyway, so I got into some pretty intentions this past week, which I come to realize doesn't make the other people feel heard. So this is what I've learned from my crappy is that I need to tone down the passion when there's another person who has a different opinion, right? I need to tone it down so that I can help them feel heard. Because if I come at them shot after shot after shot with all of my prepared and my point of view and all the things I've already thought very long about and why I came up with my point of view, it kind of makes them feel like they're not being heard. It makes them feel like I'm not spending enough time here. Crappy, and it was very humbling, by the way. Um, I was really appreciative of the two friends that I was talking with, by the way, who were trying to help me see that they weren't being heard, and they were great. They were great about it. They were trying to tell me like, well, when you say this or when you do that, it makes me feel like you think this and that, or it makes me think that you're not listening or you didn't hear me, or stuff like that. So that got me to pause. It got me to stop and think, oh my gosh, that's not my intent. My intent is to have conversation, a discussion, because we want to hear each other out. And so we did. And once we were able to do that, the conversation went much better. We got to see each other's point of view. I felt heard. They felt heard. It was good. And it comes, my husband's so funny because he says, what it comes out to is that we are violently in agreement, right? So, which means we're just very passionate about what we believe, and that's great. It's really good to have passion, but we need to dial it back when we want to be approachable, right? We want people to see not intensity, but we want them to see maybe intensity of joy, but not intensity of frustration, right? Intensity of frustration drives people away. Intensity of joy brings them back. So we want to focus on that. Anyway, you guys, it's good to be passionate, but be careful what you're passionate about and how you express it. That's my takeaway from my crappy this week. Well, welcome, you guys. Glad to see you guys are here. Obi says, I can only set reminders for my phone, but can't on PC. Oh, that is weird. Yeah, I don't know about that. Dana, good morning. Says, I pray everyone has had a great week so far. Tomorrow is 4 months no contact. Wow. Congratulations. That's excellent. Keep up the good work, Dana, because I know it's hard. It really is. And it can be hard for, gosh, a year, even if you're finding yourself a year out and you're like, or 5 months out and you're like, why is this still so hard? Know that we have also experienced that. It's not unusual. But celebrate each week that you go no contact because you get your sanity back. Week by week, month by month, you get your sanity back. Um, Jihad, good to see you. And John Bailey says, where do I start? She came to Savannah but didn't come here. Thank you, God. Wow. So she's trying to make her way closer to you, huh? Yeah, you got to be really careful because one day she may very well pop up on your doorstep. John, I don't know if you do this, but in my phone, for the narcissist in my phone, I give them a nickname, or actually I substitute their name for the nickname, and to remind myself, to help me snap back to reality when I'm tempted to respond back or tempted to answer them. So something like, lying cheater, or I have one that's called stealthy backstabber. So the stealthy backstabber, I know, like, if I ever hear from her, that reminds me right away, like, this is not someone that I want to get involved with again, not someone I want to let back into my life. Is the picture kind of fuzzy to you guys? Seems okay, maybe it's not. All right. 5 minutes away, but I think it was a lie just to get a rise out of me, and told me she was here after she got back to Texas. She has to be the craziest person I have ever met. Exactly. You may want to put in your phone that, if she's not already blocked, but if she's in your contacts. I did save the numbers. I had considered just deleting the numbers of the narcissist, but then I thought, oh, what if they call me back or call me one day? And one did. And I was glad that I saved the number because I relabeled the number, the contact, as a lying A. So you guys can figure that out. Yep, lying donkey. So I was able to go, whoa, and, it smacked me. It came out of nowhere. It was a total surprise. It had been a couple of years since I heard from this narcissist. And that's why I say do this, because you never know when they're going to pop back into your life or try to pop back into your life. You might think, oh, well, if they haven't come back in the last 2 months, then they're not coming. No, 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 no. It could be years and they will contact you. Anyway, so when they do contact you, you want to be snapped back into reality. You want a sobering reminder of who they are, so you don't give into the, oh yeah, they were in my past and maybe I over exaggerated what they did, or maybe I misremembered how badly they treated me. But the change in the name for them in your contacts, oh yeah, that'll snap you right back. Yeah. Oh, you know what I need to fix? Okay. Oh, the amount of, what's this? Oh, passive aggression. The days. Oh my gosh, this is a long title for your handle. These days is mind blowing. Oh, okay. That's what it. Well, can I just say the amount of? So I'll be calling you that. Says oh, here we go. Asks, is gaslighting ever a viable option for therapy years? Because I'm just curious if anyone has ever heard of this therapy, gaslighting therapy. I Can you explain what that is? I have not heard of gaslighting therapy. Sounds not good to me. Okay, sounds like a disaster to me, but I don't know what it's about. So if you can explain it, that would be great. Well, you guys, my happy this week was that I got to spend more time with people that were uplifting and encouraging. I got to spend some time with people who have been through some hard times recently themselves. And, that draws us closer when we can share our struggles with one another. It really did. It drew me closer to some of my friends where we got to share with each other the deeper struggles that we've had, recent struggles, with other people, with situations in family, stuff like that. And we're able to encourage one another. It just brings you so much closer to other people when you can be there for them, uh, to sympathize and to encourage and share, that you understand so they don't feel so alone going through it. So that was my happy community. And for me, sometimes I don't know about a lot of you guys, but I'm more of an introvert. Not just even more. I feel like I am an introvert. So it's really easy for me to just uh, buckle down and just hide myself away from people and not go out. So I kind of make myself go out, set things on the calendar, make appointments, make dates with people, and we get out. I get out, and every time I've been so happy that I have gotten out every time. So I would encourage you guys to do that as well. Connect with each other, with good people, not with a narcissist. Stay no contact with a narcissist, but connect with good people, people who are grounded, people who are real, people who are kind. Um, so let's go into our topic today, because that kind of makes me think about, is there systemic or institutional narcissism? Because why are we seeing so much narcissistic behavior? I'm not saying everybody out there is a narcissist, okay? But the behavior has become very negative out there. And not just negative, but it seems like just very blatantly narcissistic, right? You look around, you're like, what the heck? Why am I seeing so many narcissists? And I've gotten that question a lot. It's like, are most people narcissists? And actually, no, most people are not narcissists, but why are we then seeing so much narcissism out there or narcissistic behavior? And the reason for that, I think, is because there is systemic narcissism. There is a social system in place that's creating a lot of narcissism or narcissistic behavior, or encouraging narcissistic behavior in people. So this is why I want to ask, you guys to think about, where does it start? I mean, think about, what do your eyes see every day, right? We get on our phones immediately every day, it seems. Or a lot of people do. I think very, very few people don't get on their phones within the first 10 minutes they wake up, right? Or even first half hour, let's say that, you wake up, and we use our phones for everything. We use our phones for an alarm. I don't even have an alarm clock anymore. I don't know who does, but so I use my phone for the alarm. And just that alone gets me pulled into using my phone for other things. And that brings me then to, how is this systemic? How is narcissism being taught systemically? And I think it's through our devices. It's through first it started off with just radio, right? I mean, I'm going way back a bit. Just radio. And it wasn't very narcissistic then, because it was more just entertainment, right? And it was only an hour a day or a few minutes a day that people would listen to radio. But then it was TV, right? And then it became more like hours a day. People would spend hours a day, even maybe just 2 to 3 hours a day, kind of glued to the TV. And even then, it was more like just entertainment because you still had the rest of the day to live life. But then when we started moving into the computer age, we were able to access and cable. We were able to access TV and programming 24/7, you guys, 24/7. Once we started getting the programming 24/7 and bringing it into our lives, into our eyes, into our homes, um, I think that's when we started becoming programmed rather than watching programs. All right, let's just stay with me here for a minute because if you look at what people are watching nowadays, the things that we've become desensitized to, the abuse that goes on TV, the oh my gosh, even the physical stuff that goes on regular TV is mind blowing to me because I remember as a kid, oh, even before that, I used to watch, what are they called, Nick at Night? So they would do reruns of TV shows like I Love Lucy. And I had read in an article, because I read up on some, I don't know, I read a lot of different things, by the way. Sometimes I read these biographies, and I was reading one on Lucille Ball, and she was talking about how there was a time when she was making I Love Lucy, the TV stations wouldn't allow her, even though she was married, and they would have some bedroom scenes, not like kissing type of things, but where they would walk through their bedroom and like pack up clothing for a trip or something like that. They had to show two twin beds. They did not even have a queen size bed in the middle of the room for a married couple on TV because they were not allowed to allude to that. They weren't even allowing pregnant women to be on TV. I think she was one of the first pregnant women to be on TV because, then that would cause people to have to explain to their kids what's this big bump on this woman and how did that happen. So that was kept quiet, quiet, and because they just felt like this is not the forum to bring out this type of discussion where you now force a family to discuss it, right? And I think there was some merit to that, but then people tended not to discuss it at all with their kids, and they kind of do need to teach their kids about that stuff. But here's the deal: we went from an age of innocence to now an age of anything goes, like almost anything goes. And I think this is where the systemic narcissism begins because we're teaching people not to have any filter, not to have any control over themselves because anything goes, all right? That is not that's not the way we were designed to be. If we were designed to be just total savages with each other, there wouldn't be society, right? But people are getting to the point where they think like no matter what I do, it's okay. No matter how I behave, it's okay. And because I've seen it on TV, I've seen these people get redeemed, which is good. I understand redemption, I understand forgiveness. That's great. But it's to the point where they show you as if it's comical. It's so funny on these programs when we get our lines blurred. Who's the victim and who's the perpetrator? Who's the antagonist? Who's the protagonist? And they switch roles back and forth, and you love this person, then you hate them. Then you love them again, but then you hate them again because of their role on the character, right? But it's gotten to the point where now it's just humorous. Now they're approaching us through humor, trying to change our minds about what's evil and what's bad because we see someone being funny while they're being really awful, and you get your sense of right and wrong in your heart starts to blur. And I think that's to the benefit of narcissism. That's where narcissists live. That's how they think. That's their existence. They blur the lines of good and evil so that you get so confused in yourself that you start to believe the narcissist that while they're doing something bad, like say they're cheating on you, and then they tell you, but I had to do that for our relationship, to make our relationship better. Then you start thinking, oh, well, this wrong thing that they did was a good thing after all, you know? So I'm getting ahead of myself, you guys. This is just, my mind kind of starts exploring in all these different directions. Like, where am I seeing systemic narcissism? Well, let's start from this beginning. A while ago, I was teaching an art class, and in teaching the art class, I was asked to teach this curriculum and learn about art in different cultures. And one of the sections was Asian art. So as I was learning about Asian art, I realized that traditionally Asian art was mostly landscape. And actually, a lot of European art was landscape, right? But with the occasional portrait. But Asian art was very, very, very rarely that you would ever see a portrait. It's because they considered the landscape as the bigger pictures. They are just part of the bigger story. They're not the center of the story. They're part of the story. So in the Asian culture, they really learned about how you fit in with nature, how you fit in with the culture, with the people, with others around you. You don't stand out individually because um, the more important thing is the community, right? The more important thing is the big picture. But nowadays, what are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of selfies, right? And we're seeing a lot of portraits, self portraits. We're seeing a lot of self focus. And we're seeing the narrative change from the bigger story out there is more important than myself. We're seeing like, no, I am more important than the big story. I'm the most important thing, and everything then orbits around me. And that's where, again, I'm coming to our system is teaching us more to focus on self. Like how, and it starts really, I remember, was it a few couple of generations ago, they started teaching the customer is always right. And let me tell you, the customer is not always right. I have met many customers that are just off their mind. They just want to cheat the store in order to get free things. So it's not that the customer is always right, but this mantra, this new way of selling, this new way of thinking permeated through our society. The customer is always right. So the customer starts to feel emboldened, right? Starts to feel like what I think and what I do is more important than what the associate at the store does. And we're seeing that, oh my gosh, play out on social media when people don't get their way and then they videotape a manager or they videotape a clerk and say, look at this clerk, and they shame them. They have no conscience at all about shaming these people and saying, like, and acting like brats, really, the person taking the video acting like the brat, throwing a tantrum about them not getting their way because they fully believe the customer is always right and I'm the customer. But here's the deal, those who are customers at some point may be the clerk. They may be the one providing the service. And would they still feel the customer is right if someone was treating them that way? So here we are, back to the golden rule, right? Which has been, I think, lost, completely lost in society, in our systems, in our institutions nowadays. And it's also being used against good. The treat others as you would want to be treated yourself, the golden rule, right? And I'll give you an example of that. I knew this kid who was being bullied in fourth grade. Fourth grade, she's getting bullied by these other two girls. Actually, started off with just one girl because this kid was becoming friends with the second girl, right? So the first girl gets all jealous and upset that this girl, okay, I'm gonna call them A, B, and C, okay? So A is getting harassed by girl C. She becomes a good friend with girl B, all right? So girl C sees the two friendships, and this happens, let me tell you, this plays out in adulthood too, not just in children. So girl C becomes jealous and starts to want to pull girl B back to her, starts trash talking the girl A. This is in fourth grade, for crying out loud, you guys. That means they're what, 9, 10 years old? So girl A puts up with it for a long time until it becomes so blatant that this girl is bullying her, that she brings it to the teacher's attention. Now, what does the system do? Okay, this is the teacher is part of the system, by the way. This is our educational system. What is being taught? This is what, and I found out this did not happen just one time, but it happened multiple times with other people as well. So, girl A goes to the teacher and tells the teacher what's going on. So the teacher says, "Okay, I'll pay attention, watch for it." She sees it. The teacher sees it. She sees that girl C is bullying girl A all the time. So what does she do? Does she talk to girl C? No. What does the system do? The system blames the whole classroom. The system tells the whole classroom, "Hey everybody, this we're going to have what amounts to sensitivity training. We're going to tell all of you that when you behave this way, that is wrong. Don't be, what is a good friend?" So they do this whole teaching thing for the whole class. What is a good friend? And everybody raises their hand. Well, a good friend does this, a good friend does that. Okay, so we all want to be good friends. Do they address what a bad friend is? No. Do they say what behavior is unacceptable? No. So what happens with girl C? She sits back and she's like, "Yeah, I'm a good friend. I do all those things. I just don't do it for girl A, but I do it for all these other people. So I'm a good person." So girl C does not learn a single thing about, hey, you got to stop your bullying. So guess what happens? The bullying continues. So it gets to the point, by the way, that the principal gets called in. The principal can't do anything because the principal doesn't see it happening. And the system is set up so that they cannot pull girl C aside and say, "You need to stop doing this." That's the system. The system does not pull the bully aside to say, "You got to stop." I mean, unless it gets physical. And it never got physical. So it's all mental, right? It's all mental, and the shunning was physical, but it wasn't like pushing you. So they couldn't do anything about that. They until it gets physical, they're not going to do anything. They're like, well, it's just name calling, it's just mental, it's just excluding, it's just, dirty looks, it's just, whatever. So the principal can't do anything. Guess what finally got them to do something? And it did, I don't know that it actually helped. Girl A starts buying, I'm sorry, girl C, who's the bully, buys jackets. I'm sorry, I don't know if she bought jackets for everybody. She got a jacket and she convinced girl B to buy the same jacket. Now girl B and girl A are now wearing the same jacket. Then they convinced the other girls in the classroom to buy the same jacket, but they don't tell girl A. So girl A is the only one in the classroom without this jacket. What does this look like now? Girl C, at 4th grade, at 9 years old, has figured this out. She has created her own little freaking gang who wears jackets to make sure girl A knows you are not part of this group. You are not part of the gang. So at this point, the teachers start to see it. Other teachers even start to see it. And they're like, we have a dress code here, and this is not allowed. And this is in 4th grade, for crying out loud. So finally, all the girls get told, "I'm sorry, you cannot wear, these jackets to school because it's very gang-like." And that's it. That's all they're told. They're not told, girl C is not told, "Hey, what the heck? You cannot do this. You don't start up a gang to gang up on one individual. This is wrong." So they never actually teach the bully, the narcissist, that what they are doing is wrong. They never approach it directly. They tiptoe around it. They get the whole class to reiterate. Here's the virtual signaling, by the way. They get the whole class to talk about, oh, what is it to be good? Oh, to be a good friend means you hold the door open for each other, or if someone drops a book, you pick it up for them. They tell you, they can come up with all these scenarios and talk about what it is to be good, and then afterwards pat themselves on the back and feel like good little citizens because they contributed to the conversation and were able to come up with an idea that was good behavior, right? And even the narcissist learns this, gets it, right? The narcissist is sitting back and saying, "Oh, if I say all the right things, people think I'm a good person." So the narcissist gets to contribute to the conversation about what it's like to be a good friend. And everybody's like, "Oh, that's a good point. That's good. That's a good suggestion. Yeah." And the narcissist gets, again, elevated. This is the system that is raising up freaking narcissists, you guys. And this is at a very, very early age. And it's so crazy that what I discovered about this school and then other schools too, but mainly I was involved with this school. Um, what I found out from other parents was that this happened for many, many years. So going back several years earlier, other people had the exact same experience. And then even now, I'm learning that people continue to have this experience where the teachers do not step in and stop the bullying. You know what the reason is? The reason is they don't want to make the bully feel bad. They don't want to make the bully feel singled out. They don't want to make the bully feel worse than they already feel. They're assuming that the bully's having a hard time at home. So they're building up this story about, well, the bully is acting this way because of their own insecurity, because they must be going through something bad. And here you go. Here's the narcissism. Narcissists believe that their actions are warranted or acceptable because of something else underlying, right? Something else happened in their life, and therefore they're the victim. So therefore it's okay for them to treat other people badly. That's crap, you guys. That's crap. This is the systemic narcissism that's being taught out there in systems, in institutions that I'm talking about. Now, it doesn't stop in the little schools, okay? It doesn't stop in elementary school. It continues on throughout school. Then you get taught, okay, what the social construct, right? So the social system sets up narcissistic behavior, victimizing other people. So long as you're enjoying it, so long as it's funny, so long as it's entertaining to other people, it's acceptable. So hazing is one of those things they do in colleges, which is like initiation. Sometimes it's initiation. Sometimes it's just full out bullying. Like a group of people will torment one person in one way or another, and then in the end they expect the person who was tormented, the victim, to laugh and think it was all funny, while the rest of them are laughing at the victim. That's systemic narcissism, you guys. This is where you're getting people to believe it's okay to take advantage of people. You get them to believe it's okay to hurt someone. There is a line. Now, there's a pranking and stuff like that. That's funny. I get it. I get pranking. I'm not so stiff that I can't enjoy a good, joke and stuff like that. But it gets to the point where people were killed, and that's not acceptable, right? Anyway, here we are. Now we're moving into these people are growing up being coddled to be narcissists. Focus on yourself. You're the most important thing. Customer is always right. Everybody wins. There are no losers here. These are things that are being taught, right? There are no losers. Yeah, there are. There are losers. But guess what? You don't stay a loser. Why don't they teach that? That's what they used to teach. Just because you lost once doesn't mean you're always a loser. It just means you lost that once. Even if you lose 50 times, you can still win in this world, in this life. And people are being taught, no, you're never a loser. Nobody's a loser. Like, that's baloney. Guess what? We all experience losing at some point. Even the winningest winning person that you've ever met has lost at some point in their life. Oh, and that brings me to a story here. I was watching this interview with centurions. That means people who live to be 100 years old and older, right? So they were interviewing this woman. I think she was in Ireland or England or something like that. And she was talking about how she has always been lucky in her life. Like, I've always been lucky. And I was like, wow, that's nice for her. Gee, to have such a good life. And as she described what happened in her life, you find out actually she's been through a lot of hard times. She actually lost twin children when they were toddlers. Like, you don't lose toddlers, you don't lose a child and feel like you're a winner. You don't feel lucky because of that. A lot of people, it destroys them for the rest of their life. It changes them for the rest of their life, and they cannot ever get over it. But here's this woman who's lived to be 100 years old, and she's saying she's always been lucky in her life. And then she's retelling the story of, she starts from the beginning, her childhood and all this, right? But she gets to the part where she gets married and she has these twin babies and they end up dying. And of course, she talks about how devastating that was and how it really was hard. But then she talks about the rest of her life. She continues on and talks about other things in her life. And that's the thing. A lot of times we're taught, no, nobody loses in this life. You're not a loser. They're only winners. Everybody here is a winner. There's no unfairness. Everything has to be fair because if it's unfair, then there's something completely wrong. Sometimes we have to learn that life is just not fair. Not through the fault of the person in front of you, but it could be that's just the way the ball rolls, right? That's just the way the cookie crumbles, they say. So sometimes, like not everybody wins the lottery. So how is that fair, right? Like everybody should win the lottery so it can be fair. That's not life, you guys. But when you're not taught how to deal with when life is not fair, when you're not taught that, look, this happens to others too, others also lose. So how do we recover from this loss? How do we recover? How do we continue to build on? That is being that's not being taught anymore. It seems like what's being taught now is if you feel like you're at a disadvantage, then you are at a disadvantage, even if you have exactly the same tools as everybody else. But if you feel this way, then that's what's important. Again, the systemic narcissism. They're feeding and they're raising up people to focus on how do I feel regardless of reality around me, regardless of other people around me. Like I don't need to see somebody else and be inspired to overcome like they overcame. I need to sit here and wallow in my misery so that I get attention, and then the teacher or whoever your boss starts to be softer on you, right? Starts to treat you more gently and carefully and allows you more exceptions to in the way you're behaving towards others. It's ridiculous. So this is the way I think our society is going. And I don't know that's happening everywhere, but I think it is because where is this now being taught? It's not being taught just in the schools anymore. It's being force fed to us through media. It's being force fed to us through our devices, whether we're on a computer or on our phones. We're getting continually fed these messages. And it comes in, like I said, very stealthily. We don't ever see it and go, oh my gosh, that's narcissism. We see it and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. We want to be kinder to this person who's a bully because, maybe they did have a hard life. Maybe things did happen and that's why they lashed out. So, but where we fail is then the consequences. Why do we then take the consequences away from the bully? Like, are there any consequences? Turns out there aren't, right? There just aren't any consequences. Now it's gotten to the point, you guys, what's crazy to me is that you can burn down buildings, you can attack people on the streets, and so long as you're saying you're doing it for a certain cause, that's okay. And actually, that's what's being fed to us, by the way, but that's not actually what people believe. But it's being fed to us to the point where they're trying to convince us, they're gaslighting us, by the way. They are trying to convince us that wrong is right. And they're trying to convince us that as long as there's a good cause behind it, and they can even lie about the cause, by the way, then, and just so long as you believe in the cause, right? The cause may not even be there, but so long as you believe in a good cause, and you're doing this because of your belief that it's a good cause, then that's okay. And that's not okay. I think most people are coming to realizing that, you guys, this is not okay. And they're feeling torn inside, especially if they believed in that cause themselves. But something inside of us is telling us this is not quite right. There's something off here. Why am I being told that these people are not going to face any consequences? And yet we see what they're doing is so completely wrong. We see there are actual victims. We see people are getting hurt. We see, oh, here's the other thing in the system, by the way, that's being forced fed to us. I see there's a lot of conversation going on here. But I see that. Hold on, you guys. My computer is froze up. Yeah. What they're teaching us also in the system is that other people are not real people, right? Other people that you view as your enemy is not alive, living, breathing, have has a family, has emotions, has good things and struggles, and may have been uh, may have had a horrible childhood, may have had. We don't see them as real people. That's what they're teaching us through the media right now. They're trying to teach you like your enemy is not human. So therefore, you can attack them whatever way you want. You can hit them, you can strike them, you can wish, the worst onto them and their family. You can verbally abuse them. You can, and because they're trying to convince people that's your enemy. Well, if that's your enemy, that your enemy must be evil. So that's what you have to do with evil. You have to crush it. You have to destroy it. And they no longer allow us then to see our enemies as a person, as a real, living, breathing, emotional person. That's where I think the systemic race was. I'm sorry, I'm getting to systemic narcissism comes in. It's feeding and teaching people to not see other people as real. And that's why are you seeing this connecting now? Narcissists don't see their victims as separate from them. They don't see their victims as real people. Their victims are just supply to them, right? And that's why the narcissist has no empathy, has no guilt about taking advantage of their victims. They take advantage of their victims because they believe their victims are there to serve their needs, right? To serve the narcissist's needs. And the media that we're being fed, and it seems so innocuous at first, right? At first, it seems like, well, they're trying to teach us to be good. Remember the classroom scenario? Hey, everybody, what's it take to be a good friend? This is what we're getting in the big picture now. This is what we're getting in the big social media. Hey, everybody, what's it take to be a good person to other people that we think are disadvantaged? What's it take to be a good friend to this person that we think is a victim? And then everybody gets the virtue signal, right? Everybody gets to contribute and say, well, you have to stand up for them. You have to take them out from the being oppressed. You have to oppress their oppressor, right? You have to fight back for them. You have to now go after their perceived oppressor. That's what it is to be a good friend. Everybody gets to say this, right? I stand up for the victim. I'm standing up for the person I think is not being treated well. Are you guys seeing this? This is the systemic narcissism that's being taught out there. We are all being gaslighted or gaslit. I don't know how you want to say that. So when this happens, step back. Your intention, your heart, as an empath, as somebody who has empathy, is to protect the person you think is a victim, the person that you think is being oppressed, right? The person that you think is being taken advantage of. But in Crazytown, what happens is the narcissist convinces us that the victim is the aggressor and that the aggressor is the victim. That's how it works in Crazytown. So when the aggressor is attacking everybody, not everybody, is attacking and is destroying stuff and is acting like a child throwing a tantrum, we're supposed to see them as a victim. We're supposed to see them as, oh, but maybe they have a message that they're trying to convey. Maybe it's warranted because the means justify the end. So whatever they do, it doesn't matter what they do. Anything goes. Remember that message from the beginning of this? Anything goes. You can do whatever you want because you're trying to do the right thing. So if you hurt all these people along the way while you're trying to do the right thing, that's okay. That's narcissism. That's how narcissists think. Narcissists actually think that they're good people. Narcissists actually think that, and we've talked about this before in other videos, by the way, narcissists do think that they're benevolent. That's why they talk about themselves as the hero in their story, right? So they pull people in when they tell you all their stories about all the good things they've done for other people and how other people love them because of all these good deeds that they've done, and they actually think they're good people. So for them to continue to be these good people in their minds, it's okay for them to do whatever it takes to get to that end. So if it takes them having to use people along the way, having to cheat and lie and steal along the way, having to, getting, it's more like getting to take advantage of people along the way, then that's okay. That's narcissism. So, what is being rewarded right now in our institutions, in our systems? And I got to say, it's mainly our educational systems, you guys. It starts there. But then it has infiltrated 24/7 through media, being that same message being taught over and over and over again. And it's in the programming, the TV shows, right? It's in the movies. It's in advertising, even. Oh my gosh, I've seen advertising now that just blows my mind. I'm like, are you freaking serious? You, we're being gaslighted. So, you guys, stop for a second. And when you see these things happening, just question, like, am I seeing what I'm seeing really real? Is what I'm seeing and what I've believed so far, because my heart is to do the right thing. My heart is support the right cause. My heart is to fight for good, right? Then definitely fight for good. And that means when someone is robbing, stealing, destroying. And by the way, there's scriptures coming to my mind, because there's a scripture that says that the enemy comes to rob, wait, to comes to kill, steal, and destroy. That's what the enemy does. And that's the enemy of God, by the way. As you all know, I'm Christian, so I'm going to throw this in now and again. But to those who don't know the Bible, I'm going to explain some of it to you guys, some of the ways, some of the times. Anyway, let me see what conversation is going on here. Yeah. Oh, one thing I did learn, though, is just awesome, is that because of stay-at-home orders and crap like that, by the way, is people have more time on their hands, and they're actually exploring, they're actually investigating for themselves. And that's what I would suggest to you. If it seems like something you is not quite right, investigate, right? If what you're seeing doesn't sit well with you, if what you're being told is right, but it feels so wrong, explore that. Get the other story, get the other side of the story, find out what's really happening. And people are waking up. People are waking up to, like, hey, I'm not okay with people getting injured. I'm not okay with lives being lost. I'm not okay with this. And people still saying it's okay because the message is good. No, the message is not good if you have to destroy people along the way, by the way. So look into that, you guys. Let me go into um, how do narcs then thrive in this system? They do. Narcissists thrive in this type of system. They figure out that they don't have to actually be good on the inside. It's only what matters is how they look or are perceived on the outside, right? So they know that if they say the right things, if they do some of the right things, and then they highlight and put the spotlight on the good things that they do, that's what's important, right? And social media does that so well for them, right? And that's why we go no contact. We don't want to see what's going on because it's all a lie. When we watch the narcissist social media, all we see are their highlights of the good things they do, of what a great person they are, of how many friends they have. And so you think, oh, so this must be the real them, but it's not. This is how when narcissists are raised through this system, this institution that we have, institutional narcissism setup that we have, they learn that if you say the right thing, if you behave a certain way in front of the authorities, by the way, like teachers or professors or whatever, then you will be elevated. You will be respected. You will be seen as a good player, good citizen. So, I wanted to talk to you guys also about, falling for the lies of those who are living within the system. There are people who live within the system that don't see that they're being misguided. They don't see that they're being brainwashed. They don't see it. But they're they continue to perpetuate that the means justify the ends, right? They continue to justify that it's okay to destroy some people along the way, for the sake of even fewer people at the end. You're like, wait a minute. So you want to destroy, hundreds of people along the way because you're standing up for one person over there. Like that's crap. All these hundreds of innocent people, by the way. I'm not talking about, hundreds of aggressors. When it gets to that point, when it gets to the point where people are trying to convince you that within the system they're doing the right thing, you need to stand apart. And I'm not saying like come against them or protest against them and stuff like that. That's not necessary. But I'm just saying for your own sanity, you need to step back and go, well, what's really going on here? What is happening? When I see somebody behaving so angrily and filled with so much hate, that cannot be a good thing. Good things do not come out of hate, by the way. Yeah, good things do not come out of hate. Only destruction comes out of hate. But narcissists will try to convince you that good things come out of hate, right? When people have lost their mind to the point where they're frothing at the mouth and they're hateful and they're swinging and they're trying to physically attack other people that, who are in their way. That's crap, you guys, or that they disagree with. They feel like, well, if I disagree with you, then it's okay for me to abuse you. That is narcissistic thinking. If narcissists believe that if they disagree with somebody or someone's disagreeing with them, it's okay for them to abuse them. And that's why when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you feel like you're in freaking Crazytown, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, they're trying to say that they're a good person and yet they're being the abuser. And you're like, well, wait a minute. How are you a good person but you're the abuser? So that has happened in my story growing up. And many of you guys have had the same type of story where your parent is the narcissist, but they've convinced people in the community that they're a good parent. So they come to you and say how lucky you are to have such a great parent. And you're like, not really. It's a horror show at home. It's a horror show behind closed doors. But you can't say that because you're controlled by the narcissist. You're still under the narcissist's control. Well, you guys, the narcissist then continues to learn that saying the right things is what's rewarded, right? Doing the right thing for a while is what's rewarded. That's in view. That's why when kids throw tantrums, if you ignore the tantrum, if you walk away, you'll find like the toddler will look around like, well, how come I don't have any people watching? Where's my audience? And the narcissists are the same. They they put on a show, right? And they look around for the audience. The audience is supposed to applaud their good behavior. The audience is supposed to see that when they say the right things, the narcissist says the right things, then the audience is expected to believe that the narcissist is a good person. What happens in this system, by the way, is it prevents the narcissist from actually working on the person inside. It prevents them from working on the inner person. When they don't have to address the inner person, when they don't have to ask questions like, what I did there was wrong and I faced some consequences and I didn't like those consequences, so how do I now avoid these consequences? Does that remind you guys of Happy Crappy? Yeah, the crappies are when you do bad things happen to you, and then you learn from them to not do them. That's the inner work. And this is why we do Happy Crappy Hour. We're doing the inner work, which narcissists do not. They've learned that within the system, they can get by very well. They can even be completely successful within this system because they don't have to do the inner work. They don't have to face their consequences. They get to cry wolf. They get to cry that they're a victim. They get to cry that others abused them or others took advantage of them. And then everybody is to be believed. Remember that? Like, Nobody's a loser. Everybody has to play this game. We don't want to single out one person who's causing all the trouble, but we want to just bring them into the fold and make them feel like part of the group. The narcissist never then gets or has to suffer consequences. So when they don't have to suffer consequences, they don't work on the inner self. They just don't. We do, though, work on the inner self because we suffer the consequences of being with a narcissist, right? We have suffered the abuse or the um, cheating, or we've been taken advantage of by a narcissist. If you've been there, and I know all of you guys have been, then you feel like, how do I dig my way out of this? This is a consequence of dealing or getting involved with a bad person or getting involved with someone who's a narcissist. uh, Now we're set with the consequences of that. Now we're left with, well, how do we rebuild? How do we work on the inner self? How do we get stronger? How do we make better decisions? How, what this is, we examine too. We examine the things that we did that led us into the relationship and kept us in that relationship with the narcissist. And we go, well, what did we do that kept us in that relationship for so long? Was it our low self esteem? Was it that I was being gullible? Was it that I didn't fact check the narcissist, right? I just took their word as truth instead of examining it. I didn't have good boundaries, right? These are things then that we learn to implement, things that we then learn to work on our inner self. Well, you guys, the thing is with kids and within the institutions that I'm talking about right now is we need to teach kids and people and adults at this point. There are people who've come through the system and now they're adults and it's too late for them to go back, right, into the educational system. But we're still getting inundated. We're still getting inundated with messages through media. So what do? We have to learn and teach ourselves the proper tools to handle regular life when things aren't fair, when we lose. It's okay to lose. That's the other thing. I love it. I love that it's okay to lose. And people, for some reason, are, so, I don't want to say hate losing. I guess they do hate losing. I do hate losing. But the thing is, people are so scared of losing that they refuse to admit when they've lost. It's like, just admit it. Like, oh, I lost. I made a mistake. I lost. When you play a game and you lose, no need to be a sore loser. Just go, wow, the other person, either through luck or maybe outwitted you through brains, right? They won. Celebrate that. Don't be so scared and you know, uh, what's the word? Just don't be so worried about how it looks to have lost. Just don't be. Just be excited for the person who won. Anyway, sorry, kind of got out there. You guys, I have been going on for a while, and I want to look at some of your comments, see what you guys think about that. I mean, are you guys kind of seeing how some of this has come into your life? Oh my gosh, what has happened here? How are you guys? Just looking for these comments. Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah. The amount says, I was just trying to see things through the people's eyes that are less crazy than me. That's what that was about. And yes, you're right. Supposedly less crazy. Okay. I've never seen proof that I'm not. What? I'm sorry. This is kind of going off a bit. Yeah. Obi was saying that. Hold on. Let me go back a little bit. Um, I don't know how far back I need to go here. Sorry, you guys. I'm kind of losing what's going on in this comment. Well, you guys, I hope that you start to question and wonder and ask yourself what is going on in the programming that I'm watching, and some of the programming is funny, but recognize that we're being trained to accept narcissists, right? We're being trained to accept narcissistic behavior. We're being trained, not even that, but we're seeing that narcissistic behavior gets rewarded. Like the more narcissistic you are, the more funny you are, which is horrible, right? I'm not saying that it's in everything, but I've seen enough programs where this is pushed that it gets me to question and gets me a little bit concerned. Like, we have to not be so desensitized to pain or to reality or to what's right and wrong. We have to hold on to what's right and wrong. And that's why I want to talk about institutional narcissism, because when the institutions are rewarding narcissistic behavior and they're rewarding the person who is trying to get all the attention, or the person who just happens to say the right thing, but that in their private life they're not that way, they're a horrible person, but the professor doesn't know that. Professor only sees them being good in the classroom, and they get rewarded, and then you're like, what the heck's going on? This is not fair. But let me tell you what, the narcissist always gets their karma. I guess that's the good news. The good news is that even though this happens, even though there are a lot of people who are behaving narcissistically, they will grow out of it, because they'll start to see that applied in real life, it doesn't go very far. It doesn't help you. I mean, some people can take it really far, but most people can't, right? They cannot keep up this fake life. And people start to see through their fake life. They start to see through the lies. And people are becoming more and more aware of narcissistic behavior. And I think that's a good thing. We're becoming more aware, and we can identify it in people. So when they start to behave that way, you turn around and you run, which is what one of my friends has recently dealt with. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, the woman she's dealing with is very narcissistic. I don't know that she is a narcissist. I don't know her that well, but her behavior is very narcissistic. It's very self-preserving. It's very always offensive, attacking. She's on the attack. She doesn't humble herself to think, oh, maybe she does some of the things that she's projecting out to other people. So she does all these classic things that narcissist does. And when I heard about this, I just thought, well, my friend listens to my channel, so I hope she's hearing this. When you deal with people like that, you run the other way, and you don't have to feel bad. You can pray for them. You can wish them well. You can say, I hope that they figure it out. I hope they see the light. I hope they change, and then go on with your own life. And that's what my friend's doing, which is awesome. Anyway, you guys, tell me what. Oh, okay. The amount of says, how would one escape a crazy town? Well, you escape crazy town, first of all, by going no contact with the narcissist. Second of all, you have to start working on yourself. You need to look at what has happened in your past and with the people that you think are narcissists, or the people you were saying seemed less crazy than you, right? You need to look there and see your part in it. What did you do? Did you have different choices you could have made? And now you want to implement the better choices going forward, right? You don't want to repeat history. You don't want to continue to do the same things that you've done before. You want to be able to see, and this is empowering, by the way, you want to see what you were capable of, what you were responsible for. And by the way, the word responsible is such a good thing. If you were responsible for something, that means you were empowered. You were empowered to do something about it. And you still are. You're empowered right now to do something about your life, right? Don't give the reins over to other people and blame them. You guys, that's another thing about the institutional narcissism, is that the blame game is taught. You're taught to blame other people for your behavior now, your current behavior. So in escaping Crazytown, you don't want to continue doing that. Don't use any of the same tools that the narcissist uses. And this is why I think a lot of people are so confused, because we've been taught in the institutions, in the system, that what how we are today is not our fault, right? How we are today is not our fault. By the way, I don't think that's true. I think that there some of how you are today is not your fault, but a lot of how we are today is our fault. And fault is not a bad thing, by the way. Responsibility, fault, that means you have choices. You have control. If it's your fault, that means you have control over it. So here's the deal. What can you do? What choices can you make right now? Right? The narcissistic systemic side teaches you you have no choices. You can't do anything. Everybody else is in control of your life. So your whole life is controlled by what everybody else around you is doing, which is total crap, by the way. That is not true. Some of what they do around you may limit some of your paths, right? It might limit you here and there, but it doesn't control you. What you do then is you go around it. You go around that limit. You find another way. You still have choices. So I heard once, like, okay, I'm jumping all over the place in my head. There's a scripture that says, "In your anger, do not sin." And people would say, "Well, there you go. We're not supposed to be angry." No, you can be angry, but what matters is how you behave, right? How do you react from that? So the same thing goes with when people are standing in your way, when people seem to be in control of certain parts of your life, all right? Maybe they are. How are you going to react to that? That's what matters. Are you going to lie down and let them walk all over you and say, I give up, I can't do anything, I'm a victim? Are you going to retaliate and fight back and hit and try to destroy their life because you feel like they're destroying your life? Both ways are wrong, by the way. Both of those things are terrible. Terrible choices. The best choice is you say, okay, well, they kind of stand in my way here, so I'm going to go around them. I'm going to make another way. I'm going to get a different job. I'm going to move to a different town. I know that not everybody can do that, but if you can't do that, then what do? Well, then I'm going to change the way I interact with them. I'm not going to be abrasive with them, even though they're abrasive with me. I'm not going to be that way. If they're aggressive, I'm not going to be aggressive. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to focus on what's good. I'm going to read and fill my mind with good things. Oh, by the way, you guys, I was listening to something recently, and I'm going to post it in either my comments or descriptions after we get off here. I think it was like maybe 30 minutes, 25 minutes, something like that. And it was a really good speech. I think it was done like a long time ago, but it applies to today. And it has to do with, where is your mind? Where is your thinking? And a lot of people have told me, but I can't control how I feel, and this is just how I feel, and it's not my fault. And let me ask you this. If you cannot control your own mind, your own thinking, who can? Who's controlling it then? Right? If you're not in control of your own emotions, who is? Who is controlling your emotions, right? And this is part of the systemic narcissistic industry or institution that's out there. They teach us that, oh, it's not your fault that you feel this way. It's not your fault that you do the things that you do. It's everybody else's fault. That is unempowering. That's telling you you have no choice. That's telling you that everybody else has control over you, to the point where even your mind is not your own. So there are people out there right now who are telling me that I'm not in control of how I think. It's just the way I am. It's like, well, what do you mean that's the way you are? If you're not the one controlling your mind, who is? Who is controlling your mind? Is it the programs that you're staring at 24/7? Is it the people that you're hanging out telling you what to do? Then you need to control that. You still have choices. You can decide not to hang out with those people. You can decide not to watch that programming, right? So watch good things. This is a challenge that, it's already been hard for me, that I'm giving myself. I think it's within this, it might be within this thing that I'm going to post for you guys to look at. But I think there is a challenge here for 30 days focus on positivity, right? Focus on what's good. Focus on a goal. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can do that because you start to behave and start to think where your mind is focused, right? So if your mind is focused on negativity, if your mind is focused on what's wrong in this world, if your mind is focused on the narcissist and the trauma that they caused you, what are you going to grow out of that, right? The idea is wherever you put your mind, that's where you're going to go. It's sort of like, when you're walking and you turn your eyes to something, you start walking towards where your eyes are focused. So when your mind is focused on something, that's where your whole life starts to go, starts to focus on that, starts to steer towards that. Anyway, I will post it for you guys. I hope you will enjoy it. Let me know, though, in the comments if you watch it. And also in the comments, let me know in your life where you've seen narcissistic uh, systems or institutional narcissism, right? Where it's being taught, where it's being rewarded. And I know many of us have seen this too, where narcissism is being rewarded in the workplace, for crying out loud. So I know for sure that in sales places, they kind of overlook, this is the sick part, and they overlook the fact that you did not do the best thing for the customer, but you got the customer to purchase something that they didn't need, and you get rewarded for that, right? That's creepy to me. That's really creepy to me. There are people out there. I remember when we applied for a loan, and the realtor was trying to get us to, oh, well, you guys make enough to buy this much of a house, and I'm like, yeah, that would completely devastate us financially if we did that. But did the realtor care? No. The realtor was looking at their commission, and they believed, wholly believed in what they were saying, because they were taught, oh, look, if somebody makes this amount of money, it doesn't matter if they have car payments, doesn't matter if they have kids that they have to feed and clothe and take care of, it doesn't matter that they have other debt. They can afford this amount. Like they choose a really large amount of debt, this big of a mortgage. They can afford this big of a mortgage. And the realtor doesn't stop to go, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, because that amount of a mortgage is going to essentially take all of their income after taxes and after they pay bills, or gas and electric. We're not even allowing them time, money or enough space to live a life and have go out to dinner once in a while or go on vacation. We're wanting them to put their whole paycheck into this mortgage. And the realtor is being taught to do this so that they get a bigger commission. And that really sucks. So I'm not saying all realtors do this, but it is set out there in the sales world that you get the customer to spend as much money as possible. And it's not your responsibility what happens to the customer financially after that. And that really sucks. I think that happens probably in banks as well. I'm not sure. But, when people encourage you to take out far more money than you really should be taking out, encouraging you to live in debt, they don't care because they get something out of it. The more you get into debt, the more money they get. So be careful of that as well. We're not dealing with all these altruistic, really good people. But on the outside, they're very friendly. On the outside, they seem very caring. They remembered to pick you up. They thought of you on the way to your meeting and got you a cup of coffee. They ask about your kids. They ask about your life. Wow, they seem to really care. But no, they're looking at your pocketbook. They're looking at your bank account. They're not looking at you like you're a person. This is the institutional narcissism that's being spread out there in the working world. And that really sucks. We have to be so careful nowadays to, I don't want to lump these people into like they're all narcissists, but this is the institution that they're programmed into. They're programmed into thinking, I have to make a living so that I can feed my family, so that means it's okay for me to take advantage of all these other people. And I hate that. But I'm sorry if you're a realtor out there, but I think the whole realtor industry needs to be redone because it is not right. There's something really not right out there about that whole system. I think it breeds, and it's so weird. I mean, I have some good friends who are really fine people who are now, I guess, one of them especially just became a realtor. And I respect her a lot. I know she's a good person. I know she does fair things. I know she works hard. And I know she doesn't push people into getting into things that they shouldn't, right? She doesn't push them into homes they don't want to be living in areas they don't want to be living in just so she can get a commission, right? She doesn't push them to buy a bigger house than or a bigger mortgage than they can afford, even though the system, the banks say that it's okay if you make this amount of money that you can put. I think it's like a third of your income. That's insane, insane. You should not be spending a third of your income on a mortgage. That's not good. Anyway, you guys, kind of got off a little bit on that, but as you can tell, that institutional narcissism, it comes in. It comes in different areas of your life. People get programmed by it. They don't see beyond it. They can't see that they've been programmed. They don't realize that their behavior is narcissistic. They only think that they're just following the rules. They're following the culture. They're following the system. What's being said, what's being set before them, and being told to them is the right way. And so they're just trying to do what everybody else is doing. That's the systemic narcissism. And that's why I think when we look around, we see a lot more narcissists out there. We see a lot more people behaving narcissistically because they've detached. They've detached from their inner uh, compass. They detach from their inner moral compass so that they can function in this systemic, institutional narcissism that's out there. Well, you guys, I have gone on about this for a while. I hope that you got something out of this. I hope you understand what it looks like in your life and start to question. Use this time to fill yourself with good things. Somebody was asking me earlier, how do you get out of crazy town? Well, you start working on yourself, right? You start working in reality. You detach from the lies of the narcissist. You detach from toxic people. That's the no contact. Then you start working on what's reality. What really happened here? You start opening your eyes and then taking accountability for your part of it. My umbrella is like twisting in the wind, you guys. So take responsibility for your part in it. And that is empowering, you guys. Taking responsibility, uh, um, being able to see what you did wrong, being truthful with yourself. That helps to take you out of crazy town. Staying in crazy town would require you to stay in the fantasy, right? Stay in the web of lies that the narcissist created and maybe you contributed to. The web of lies that you built your life on. You need to start dismantling that so that you can live in reality. And that's how you get out of crazy town. Now, people who behave this way towards you, just be smart. You still are in control. If a realtor is trying to push a bigger mortgage onto you, just say no. No, I don't think so. I'm going to stay within this range. And then stick to your guns. Tell them, no, I'm going to stay within this range. And if you keep recommending these other homes that I can't afford, then I'm going to go with another realtor. You see how we have choices there? We have choices. So I hope that's helped you guys. Let me see. Oh, Sarah says, thank you for this. You're welcome, Sarah. Obi says, you escape crazy town when you discover how this disorder works and reflect on all you did to everyone and learn to forgive your narc. Just remain no contact. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for contributing that, Obi. Yeah. So, you guys, I'm trying to think if there's something else I wanted to share with you. There's so many incredible, beautiful stories out there, but the main ones that I can think of are where people simply took control of their life, where people simply decided within their own perspective how they're going to see their life. Like that woman I was talking about at the beginning, who lived to 100, I think she was like 102, but she lived over 100 years, and she describes her life as a very lucky life. She describes herself as a very lucky person, even though she had gone through many hardships in her life, including losing twin babies or twin toddlers. And she was able to still see the rest of her life as a very lucky life. So if you're not in control of your own mind, if you're not in control of your own perspective, if you're not in control of how you see things in your life, ask yourself who is? Who is in control of that then? So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I want you guys to choose better, make better choices. And the good news, you guys, is that you can. You can do that. That's the beauty of this, is that when you lose, no big deal. Get back up. That's what you do. No big deal. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I lost for 15 years. You know, I did all these things and I lost everything. And now my life is over. No, it's actually not over. Okay, that section of your life, you didn't make the best choices. No big deal. You get to move forward. You get to make corrections to it, right? Those you hurt, you can go back and apologize. Those you've wronged, you can go back and right that. Those that you have lost touch with, or because of your time with a narcissist, you lost touch with them, you can reconnect. There is still so many choices that you can continue to make in your life that will add to your life, that will benefit you, that will build you up. It's okay that you lost, all right? It's okay when we make mistakes. It's okay. And even moving forward, don't worry if you lose something, or if you make a mistake, or if you things didn't go the right way for you in the future, like in the near future. This week something wrong happens, like for me last week, I really got on the nerves of a couple of friends, but I corrected it and now we're okay. So you see what I mean? Like, it's okay. You just need to take responsibility for it, which is empowering, by the way. You need to correct it, and then you need to move on, right? Life goes on. And that's the good news. You can do this. Narcissists that come out of this system, that come out of the institutional narcissistic system, they don't get it unless they can break out of that type of thinking, unless they can start working on the inner self. The system does not teach them to work on the inner self. I hope you guys start to do that. Work on your inner self. Make better choices. Forgive yourself for the things you've done in the past. Correct it to the best ability that you can. Correct your mistakes and then move on. So blessings to you guys. I hope this has helped you. I hope that you have a great week, and I will see you next week.